So someone on our Discord server, who's by definition a Patreon supporter, was asking me recently again about attachment styles in INFJs. And I thought that was an interesting opportunity to revisit the topic, because although I released a video on that very topic not very long ago, I do think that in hindsight I may have been a little bit schematic, where I essentially said the more compliant types of INFJs tend to be anxious, the more solipsistic types of INFJ tend to be avoidant, secure INFJs are by definition secure. Spinning INFJs, at the time I didn't really go into what attachment styles these had. I think I have a better idea now, and I'm going to share it with you. Perhaps one of the more interesting insights from that previous video was the idea that if my theory of INFJ types and subtypes is correct as far as it goes, then we have to accept the premise that it is possible to switch from a more insecure leaning type of attachment to a more secure leaning. So this will be tantamount to affirming that attachment is very difficult to change. It is quite crystallized, but it is not completely set in stone, and that's a big difference. So I still very much believe that, and I do still believe that compliant / adaptive submissive INFJs will lean anxious, certainly not secure, and that solipsistic INFJs will tend to lean avoidant, right? It doesn't mean that solipsistic INFJs can't be ambivalent, that is to say, anxious avoidant. It's also true of compliance, of course. Many compliant INFJs are ambivalent, anxious avoidant. But in general, you'll find some anxiety, or anxiousness, I should say, in compliant INFJs, and you'll find some avoidance in solipsistic INFJs. And in general, you'll find more secure-leaning styles of attachment in secure INFJs, who are not the majority of INFJs. And you will find secure-leaning spiritualized INFJs. In the case of the spiritualized INFJs, there was necessarily at some point a gradual path, a gradual transition from a more insecure-leaning form of attachment to a more secure-leaning form of attachment. And this is a nice way also in which the theory of individuation intersects with the theory of attachment. The more you individuate, the more secure your attachment becomes. It's inescapable. It wouldn't really make a lot of sense for a fully individuated individual to be as insecure as they were prior to being individuated. Okay? And just as nobody is perfectly individuated, perfectly spiritualized for INFJs, nobody is perfectly secure. All of that stuff is always a continuum. But now, maybe the more interesting, or the most interesting part of this video is the question about the spinning INFJ. Now that subtype, I think, will gravitate toward ambivalence. Gravitate towards anxiousness at one pole and avoidance at the other pole. And I think the reason why is not the same reason as it would be in the case of a compliant or a solipsist. It's more to do with identity. The spinning INFJs has a weak superego functions, right? So relatively repressed or undeveloped, perhaps undeveloped is more accurate in fact than repressed, FETI functions. without this grounding, there's always going to be some kind of floating identity, in a sense, uncertainty about identity. And there's a link between a kind of unmoored identity that can shift and a difficulty with forming. You know that you're going to lean insecure, but it's not clear whether you're going to lean toward